From its stunning monuments and history-rich streets to its exceptional cuisine and museum culture, Paris is a destination unlike any other. The city has been drawing in travelers for centuries. Wander in and out of Parisian cafes, markets, beautiful gardens, and enjoy the romance of the city sights. After all, it's called the City of Lights and the City of Love for a reason. Paris, named the City of Love by the greatest poets, writers, actors, and musicians who found inspiration in the beauty of this mesmerizing city. White stone townhouses ooze luxury, the smell of freshly baked croissants drifts through the air, and flowers hang at the sides of cobbled streets. Take a trip to Paris, France, for 2 to 4 days, spending your days visiting attractions, trendy neighborhoods, and delicious restaurants. Use this Paris guide to plan your trip to one of Europe's best cities. The Arc de Triomphe is dedicated to the soldiers who fought in the French armies of the Revolution and the First Empire, Napoleonic Wars. Napoleon commissioned the building of this mighty structure in 1806 but did not live to see its completion in 1836. From the top of the monument, a viewing platform affords panoramic views of the 12 avenues that radiate from the Place de l'Étoile, including the route from the Avenue des Champs-Élysées to the Place de la Concorde and the Louvre. It's possible to see all the way to La Défense, the hilltop neighborhood of Montmartre, and the Eiffel Tower. At the foot of the Arc de Triomphe is the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, dedicated in 1921 as a memorial to an anonymous soldier, symbol of the many other unknown soldiers who valiantly died for their country during World War I without ever receiving recognition. Tourists will appreciate the gift shop and bookstore at the Arc de Triomphe. For visitors with reduced mobility and young children, there is an elevator to reach the viewing platform. Otherwise, visitors must take the stairs. Get more out of your time in France by going on a day trip to explore the many wineries in the Burgundy winemaking region. After meeting in Beaune, you'll travel in a small group by minivan to multiple dispersed sites. You'll save time planning how to get between wineries by having transport organized for the day. Burgundy is a must-see destination for every wine lover around the world. High-quality wine tastings and tours await for you to discover the secrets of wine production in Burgundy. There are numerous possibilities for wine tastings and tours in Burgundy. Here, you can enjoy your glass of fine Pinot Noir or Chardonnay, surrounded by endless vineyards, green hills, and picturesque French countryside villages. If you plan to awaken the history buff inside, why not make your way to one of the most fascinating mixes of Renaissance and Gothic architecture in the form of a chateau? The Château de Chenonceau is one of the most celebrated chateaux in the Loire Valley, France. Created in the early 1500s by Thomas Bohier, the chateau is now a historical site, which greets its visitors every day with floral arrangements from the castle's on-site floral workshop. As it spans the Seine River, the Château de Chenonceau sits atop one of the most beautifully constructed arch bridge of French Renaissance ingenuity. It is also home to some of the best embroidered and intricate 16th-century tapestries. This chateau is truly a place of overwhelming French Renaissance heritage. Take a leisurely drive down to the Val de Loire, Loire Valley, from Lassay in the Mayenne, which took around 3 hours. Plan to stay in Amboise, which is the perfect center point for visiting many chateaux, not to mention enjoying some fine French cuisine and fabulous Loire Valley wines. Initially a fortress by the Seine River, it was acquired by Thomas Bohier in 1512, who replaced it with a Renaissance-style chateau, leaving only the keep from the original building. Under the tutelage of his wife, Catherine Bricken, the chateau was built, but later handed over to the monarch to pay off debts and stage hunts and festivals. Henri II then gave it to his mistress Diane de Poitiers, who added the bridge over the Cher as well as the Chenonceau Gardens. The castles or chateaux of the Loire Valley are one of France's major attractions, and the area of the Loire has more than 300 castles in the 175-mile stretch along the Loire River. The Château Chenonceau has been part of the UNESCO World Heritage since 2017. The Loire River was once immensely important. It has long been a way for Celts, Greeks, Romans and others to trade up and down its length. When France became a nation, the Loire Valley was the dividing point between the north and south of the country. During the 100 Years' War, the Loire Valley was a battleground between the French and the English. The Eiffel Tower is one of the most iconic landmarks, not just in Paris, but in the world. The Iron Tower is both an amazing feat of engineering and an inspiring symbol of the City of Lights. It's a must-see for all visitors to Paris. The Eiffel Tower receives an average of 25,000 visitors a day. New security screenings can slow down the visiting process even more. If you value your time, you'll want to do a bit of pre-planning before visiting the Eiffel Tower. Built for the Paris World Exhibition in 1889, it has gone on to become one of the most widely recognized landmarks in the world, and features on almost every traveler's bucket list. The Eiffel Tower consists of 3 sections: the first floor, the second floor, and the observation deck at the top. There are 2 ways to reach the second floor of the tower, by lift or by stairs. The Eiffel Tower has 4 staircases, one for each pillar, going from the ground floor to the second floor. There's a 5th staircase that goes up from the second floor to the summit. However, only the staircase located in the south pillar is accessible by the public. Visitors who want to go up to the second floor of the Eiffel Tower can purchase the Eiffel Tower stairs tickets online, or at the ticket counter at the south pillar, which is marked by a blue flag. Climbing the 674 steps to the second floor are a great way to catch spectacular views of Paris, in between the iron supports. Taking the stairs up the tower is a very unique way to see Paris. Another advantage of taking the stairs up the Eiffel Tower is that the queues for the stairs are much lower than the ones for the lifts. Crowds are much fewer as well, which means you can admire the planned landscape of Paris and take numerous photographs without being disturbed. Moreover, tickets for the stairs are cheaper than the lifts, and you will end up saving both time and money by taking the stairs. The Eiffel Tower stairs have existed since the beginning of the construction of the Eiffel Tower. When the Eiffel Tower was opened to the public on 15 May 1889 for the Paris World Exhibition, the only way to go up the tower was by stairs. The lifts only came into service on the 26th of May, 1889. Originally, the staircase from the ground floor to the first floor had a total of 360 steps. A narrow spiral staircase consisting of 380 steps went from the first floor to the second floor. There was also a spiral staircase going from the second floor to the top having 1,062 steps, but it was not open to the public since it was not safe. Since then, the stairs have been modified and made more comfortable for visitors. There are 327 steps leading to the first floor and 347 steps to the second floor. Wide landings were installed to allow people to take a break. The staircase from the second floor to the top was dismantled and replaced with a more traditional one. The original historic staircase can be found displayed on the first floor, still intact in its original color. Claude Monet's house and garden is in the village of Giverny to the northwest of Paris. The garden is simply stunning, visit if you can. 500,000 people visit every year. Monet painted some of his most famous paintings whilst living at here. These included his water lily and Japanese bridge paintings. Monet lived in Giverny from 1883 until his death in 1926. The garden itself is in 2 parts with a flower garden in front of the house, and the more famous water gardens were started 10 years after Monet's arrival at Giverny and constructed on land bought on the other side of the road from his house. The flower gardens cover about a hectare and are laid out in color-themed borders. There are literally thousands of flowers in these gardens, including masses of tulips, irises, oriental poppies and peonies, plants with wonderful colors providing an inspiration to Monet's paintings. Many tourists find that taking a guided tour is the most enjoyable way to visit Giverny. This option gives travelers a chance to hear in-depth insights about Claude Monet and the famous Impressionist paintings that he created in his garden. The half-day trip to Giverny from Paris is an organized excursion led by a guide who is a licensed art historian. This private tour includes round-trip transportation from Paris to Giverny, as well as skip-the-line priority admission to Monet's garden in Giverny. Your guide will share his knowledge of art history during a tour of Monet's house and garden. You will have a chance to see the iconic Japanese bridge, water lilies, and weeping willows of Monet's garden, and your guide will discuss some of the lovely Impressionist works that Monet painted here. To see the gardens at the peak of their beauty, visit during the springtime or summer. Daffodils and tulips bloom in April, wisteria, irises and geraniums blossom in May, and roses and poppies burst onto the scene in June. During summertime, beginning in July, the famous water lilies appear in the garden's pond, and it's easy to see the inspiration for Monet's paintings. This recommended guided half-day trip departs in front of the Pullman Paris Eiffel Tower Hotel in the 15th arrondissement. You can choose a morning or afternoon departure time. Traveling by luxury coach, the ride from Paris to Giverny is about 1 hour and 30 minutes each way. The half-day tour takes 5 hours in total. It's a great choice for travelers who do not want to spend an entire day visiting Giverny. This garden is quite simply stunning. Be sure not to miss a visit if you are nearby. A must-see destination in the 6th arrondissement, the Jardin du Luxembourg is the best-known park in Paris after the Tuileries. The Luxembourg Gardens were created in the 17th century, when the Palais du Luxembourg was built for Queen Marie de' Medici by King Henri IV, and they were designed in the style of the Bogli Gardens in Florence. In the 19th century, the architect Jean-François Chalgrin updated the layout of the Jardin du Luxembourg. The central feature of the 25-hectare park is the large octagonal fountain-adorned pool, which is flanked by 2 terraces lined with statues, tidy flower beds, and perfectly manicured shrubbery. This part of the park is typical of formal French gardens. Facing the fountain are many chairs spread about for visitors to use. There is also an English-style garden, a rose garden, apiary, orangery, and greenhouses filled with exotic orchids, as well as an orchard where heirloom varieties of apples flourish. A sumptuous palace that was once the home of France's kings, the Louvre is the most important of Paris' top museums. Visitors enter the museum in the courtyard of the palace at the Pyramide du Louvre, the glass pyramid designed by Yeo Ming Pei in 1917. The Musée du Louvre displays thousands of artworks, many of which are considered masterpieces, from antiquities to European paintings of the 15th to 19th centuries. It is impossible to see it all in one visit, but tourists can focus on a particular gallery, such as classical sculpture, Italian Renaissance art, or 17th century French paintings, or take a self-guided tour to cover the Louvre Museum's highlights. The most famous piece is the Mona Lisa or La Gioconda or La Joconde in French, painted by Leonardo da Vinci in 1503 to 1505. Many tourists breeze through the museum just to glance at this one piece, but there are many other must-see works of art to admire even if time is limited. Among the most amazing masterpieces of the Louvre are the ancient Venus de Milo sculpture, the monumental Victoire de Samothrace of the Hellenistic period, the immense wedding feast at Cana painting by Veronese, 1563, Botticelli's Young Lady with Venus and the Graces fresco, and Liberty Leading the People, 1831, by Eugène Delacroix, depicting the Parisian uprising of July 1830. To get the most out of a visit to the Louvre, tourists should join a guided tour. The Louvre Museum Skip the Line tour takes participants straight to the museum's most famous artworks, including the Venus de Milo and the Mona Lisa. On this 3-hour tour, a guide, who is an art historian, provides in-depth commentary about the masterpieces. The Louvre is surrounded on one side by the Jardin des Tuileries, one of the loveliest parks in Paris. The celebrated landscape architect André Le Notre created the Tuileries Gardens in the formal French style of the 17th century, with perfectly manicured trees, statues, and pathways. Park benches and cafe restaurants with outdoor seating allow visitors to relax and enjoy the scenery. Rising out of the sea like a beacon, Mont Saint-Michel is a soul-inspiring sight. The magnificent Abbey of Mont Saint-Michel is designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and ranks high on the list of top attractions in Normandy. Mont Saint-Michel was also an important destination on the Chemin de Saint-Jacques, the pilgrimage route to Santiago de Compostela in Spain. The abbey is perched on the highest point of the rocky islet in the Bay of Mont Saint-Michel, while the island's medieval village is surrounded by ancient defense walls. At high tide, Mont Saint-Michel appears from afar as a mystical island. At low tide, it is possible to walk around the island. Legend has it that Archbishop Aubert of Avranches founded an abbey here in 708 after the Archangel Michael appeared to him in a vision, making this an important place of pilgrimage. Medieval pilgrims arrived by foot, crossing the Bay of Montmichel at low tide, sometimes challenged by unexpected riptides and quicksands. Although getting to Mont Saint-Michel from Paris may not present the dangers it did to medieval pilgrims, it is still an effort. It takes about 3.5 hours to drive from Paris to Mont Saint-Michel, or about the same amount of time by public transportation. For many tourists, it's preferable to take an organized day trip excursion from Paris. Mont Saint-Michel is one of the most fascinating heritage sites in Europe, rich in history and full of wonder. Visitors are dazzled by this exquisite Gothic landmark, a gem of medieval architecture, that presides over a scenic coastline. It's recommended to spend at least 4 hours to tour the abbey's cloister, refectory, and ramparts, have lunch, and see the powerful tides shift the landscape between water and sand. The Allied invasion of Normandy on June 6, 1944 is not only one of the great epics of military and human history. D-Day was also the turning point that brought Europe out of the iron grip of the Nazis and all the bigotry, genocide, oppression, and inhumanity they stood for. The landing sites lie between Pegasus Bridge in the east and Sainte-Mère-Église in the west and are described below in that order, east to west. Today, this stretch of Normandy's English Channel coast has returned to sandy beaches filled with laughing children and sun-seekers, but everywhere you go are reminders of those terrible days and the horrific toll of lives they took. Hitler's Atlantic Wall is still evident in tank traps and massive bunkers. Some ask you where they slowly settled into the dunes in more peaceful decades since, others made into some of the many museums that tell the D-Day story. At each of the landing sites and all along the shore are monuments and memorials to those who fought and died, and each museum illuminates a different piece of the story. These are more than tourist attractions. They are moving scenes that lead visitors to deeper thoughts on mankind, its past and its future. They deserve the attention of every generation, and the museums reflect this. Several have exhibits well designed for young people, realistically replicating scenes and showing in videos or activated models how equipment worked. There are things to do as well as things to see. Visitors can climb aboard historic landing craft, sit in a tank, step inside a replica glider, explore dark cavernous bunkers, and look for tank traps in the dunes. Or they can stand in silence at the Normandy D-Day beaches and memorials as they try to picture these scenes from history. Montmartre is talked about by Parisians the way New Yorkers talk about the village. It's not what it used to be. It's like Disneyland. The artists can't afford to live here anymore, too many tourists, etc. There is some truth to these opinions, but there are two ways of approaching this incredibly unique village within the metropolis. The first is to follow the herd instinct and stampede your way up the famous hill, take a picture of yourself on the steps of the basilica, buy an overpriced crepe at the Place du Tertre, get conned into having your portrait sketched, and walk back down clutching newly bought keyrings, postcards, gaudy t-shirts, feeling a little mystified about what all the fuss is about. The second method is to keep a map in your pocket, just in case, and try to lose yourself in the steep and cobbled streets of one of the most historic and interesting neighborhoods in Paris. Remember that the Basilica of Sacré-Cœur, the big white church, sits on the crest of the hill, so as long as you are heading uphill there is little possibility of being lost for long. At the bottom of the hill is the Boulevard de Clichy, which is lined with bars, kebab shops, and more sex shops and peep shows than you can possibly pretend you are not looking at. If you think of a triangle, consider the base of it to be the section of Boulevard de Clichy and Boulevard de Rochechouart between the metro stations Blanche and Ambers. The tip of the triangle would be the Basilica of Sacré-Cœur. The area between these 3 points is roughly the area of interest. You can begin your walk at any point along the base of the hill, or take the metro to Abbesses station and step out into the heart of Montmartre. Because all the great poets have told us the journey is more important than the destination. Commissioned by Napoleon III in 1860, the Palais Garnier Opera House was designed by Charles Garnier in an exuberant Baroque style. Garnier worked tirelessly on the project for over a decade, from 1862 to 1875. Today, this show-stopping landmark is a symbol of Napoleon's imperial regime. The facade features classical columns and 8 sculptures representing allegorical figures, poetry, music, idol, recitation, song, drama, and dance. The loggia depicts busts of composers, including Rossini, Beethoven, and Mozart, while the cupola is topped with a statue of Apollo with allegorical figures of poetry and music. Upon entering the building, visitors are dazzled by the lavish 11,000 square meter interior. Most of the building's space is dedicated to the main foyer with its fabulous grand escalier, marble entrance staircase, adorned by ornate gilded lamps. The horseshoe-shaped auditorium has an intimate feel, although it can accommodate 2,105 people in its plush red velvet seats. Gilded balconies, an enormous crystal chandelier, and a Chagall ceiling painting add to the theater's marvelousness, creating the perfect dramatic backdrop for cultural performances. The Opéra Garnier hosts a prestigious calendar of events. Besides opera, there are ballet performances, classical music concerts, and gala events. Attending a performance is one of the most exciting things to do in Paris at night. Built as a church to rival St. Peter's Basilica in Rome and St. Paul's Cathedral in London, the Pantheon is the national mausoleum of France's greatest citizens. In 1756, King Louis XV commissioned the architect Jacques-Germain Soufflot, 1713–80 to build a new church on the site of the ruined Abbey of Sainte-Geneviève, and the church was completed in 1790. Many famous men, 75 in total, are buried here, including philosophers Voltaire, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and René Descartes, and the writers Victor Hugo, Alexandre Dumas, Émile Zola, and André Malraux. Entrance to the Pantheon requires an admission fee, except for free admission on the first Sunday of every month from November through March. Guided group tours are available year-round. From April through October, for an additional entrance fee, visitors may ascend to the Pantheon's dome, where a colonnaded balcony provides a sensational viewpoint of the city's landmarks. Panoramas extend from the Notre Dame Cathedral and the Louvre in the foreground to the Eiffel Tower in the distance. There are some activities in Paris that are just so quintessentially Parisian that you can't imagine doing them anywhere else. And one of those essential activities in our mind is to attend a cabaret show, and arguably the most famous cabaret show in Paris, if not the world, is the show at the Moulin Rouge. This was where the Cancan dance was born during that magnificent period in French history, the Belle Époque. There is a dress code for the Moulin Rouge, but it is not a black tie affair. The requirement is for smart dress, which essentially means that shorts, flip-flops, sportswear, leisure wear, and sports shoes are not permitted. The Moulin Rouge has 2 showings every night, at 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. Shows run every day of the week. If you want to have dinner with your show, this is served at 7 p.m., and you will watch the actual show at 9 p.m. after your meal is complete and has been cleared away. There are also some matinee shows throughout the year, although these are not regular occurrences. The Moulin Rouge is in the district of Pigalle, which is just down the hill from Montmartre, meaning you have a number of options for getting here. The closest metro stop to the Moulin Rouge is Blanche, which is directly over the road, and gives you access to Line 2. Another option is to get a taxi. Note that there is a taxi rank across road from the Moulin Rouge. If you want to get a taxi from the Moulin Rouge, you will need to go to the taxi stop rather than flagging down a taxi, as in Paris it is illegal for taxi drivers to pick up customers near a taxi rank. No. Photography or filming of any kind is not permitted at the Moulin Rouge. Sainte Chapelle is considered to be one of the greatest achievements of the Rayonnement period in Gothic architecture. Sainte Chapelle, the Holy Chapel, is the only building that remains of the Capetian royal palace. The Sainte Chapelle was built to house the Passion relics of King Louis IX. The relics were carried by the king himself, barefoot and dressed as a pilgrim, for the last part of their journey from Venice. These relics included the crown of thorns that was placed on Christ's head at his crucifixion. The Sainte Chapelle is considered to be one of the greatest achievements of the Rayonnement period in Gothic architecture. It is designed to appear weightless and elegant. Visitors entering from the courtyard are greeted by the impressive sight of the grand ceremonial staircase and the eastern wing of Sainte Chapelle. A truly magnificent sight indeed. The name of the actual designer is up for debate. For many years it was considered to be the work of Pierre de Montreuil. This has since been revised, and it is now debated whether it is the work of Jean de Chelles, Thomas de Cormon, or an unidentified master mason from Amiens. The Palace of Versailles is located in the municipality of Versailles, in the French department of the Yvelines, 16 kilometers to the southwest of Paris. The estate of the Palace of Versailles brings the palace, the gardens, the park and the estate of Trianon together. With its 2,300 rooms spread over more than 63,000 square meters, the Palace of Versailles is one of the largest palaces in the world. It has been the dwelling of the kings of France for more than a century, and remains a symbol of the French monarchy. Its well-known Hall of Mirrors, its royal opera or even its immense gardens make it one of the most famous palaces. Nowadays, it has more than 7 million visitors every year that rush to admire the splendor of the former home of the monarchs of France. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video and find it informative. Please do not forget to subscribe, like and share our videos.